Hey, good afternoon. It's a beautiful Wednesday in North Georgia. I am Jeff Hood sitting in for Marc McMain. Marc is campaigning for state senate, so by rule he has to be off the air, but that's my benefit and hopefully your benefit because we've got an action-packed show for you, a lot of guests, and let's get right to it. Our first guest is on the line, and that is Carolyn Roddy. Carolyn, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Jeff, for having me.
Well, a lot of folks, Carolyn, may not know who you are, but they need to know, so that's why we got you on, because advanced voting is well underway in Georgia, and I would argue one of the most important races on the ballot is Public Service Commission, and you are running, on the Republican side, PSC District 5. And first of all, let's give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself. Who is Carolyn Roddy?
My name's Carolyn Roddy. I'm a candidate for the District 5 seat. There are two PSC seats that are being voted on during this election, 3rd and 5th. My background is that I'm a lawyer who has done regulatory utility law for about 30 years. Both as a regulator, I worked primarily in the telecommunications field, and I worked at the Federal Communications Commission, and then I was a lawyer there. Then I became chief of staff to a commissioner, so I have been involved in developing orders, reviewing orders, and also in deciding how orders should be voted. I have also been a lawyer representing utility clients, again, primarily telecommunications clients, before the Georgia Public Service Commission and other public utility commissions throughout the South. I also was a Trump first-term appointee. My first job with the Trump administration was to work in the Office of Rural Utilities Service in the Department of Agriculture. And the RUS, or Rural Utilities Service, provides low-cost loans to electric co-ops throughout the United States. Right now, their portfolio has about $67 billion worth of outstanding loans to co-ops. And my final Trump appointment was as an assistant secretary of Department of Commerce for National Telecommunications and Information Administration. I am running, Jerry, because I really feel like that my expertise would translate well, and I want, I've done this kind of work for 30 years. I'm totally qualified for this job. I am very interested in making sure that the consumer watchdog role that the Georgia Public Service Commission is supposed to play is played out well. I'm not owned by a utility, and I will view cases openly. I think it was pretty outrageous to have 6 rate increases over a period of 3 years going to Georgia Power. It's just not fair to consumers with budgets that are already really stretched thin. I'm also concerned about how the Georgia Public Service Commission is going to deal with the rollout of power to data centers. Now, the PSC does not do make the decisions as to whether data centers will come in, or, we're seeing all these horror stories about data centers. But my concern is that the ratepayer not be stuck with the cost of serving the Googles, the Amazons, the Metas, for earlier name for Facebook. These massive companies, they can pay their own power. They can bring their power to their facility, and ratepayers should not be stuck with that bill. It's commonly sort of recognized that rates went up because of the rate increases that Georgia Power had by an average of $43 a month. And during the hot seasons, when you're running your air conditioner, there's a heat surcharge. And during that time, the average rate increase went up $266 a month. I think something should have been done to prioritize affordability. And I intend to look at each case. I want to make sure that Georgia Power and all the other utilities in the state have the capacity and the resilience and the resources that they need to provide service. I'm not in favor of tinkering with their formulas, just, looking out for the way that they handle rates.
We're talking to Carolyn Roddy, who is a candidate for Public Service Commission District 5, and wow, I'm impressed with your resume. Obviously, you are well qualified to be on the PSC. And Carolyn, a lot of folks in this day and age, they kind of want to know even further back, where at this candidate I'm considering, where are they from? Because we've had some that blow in here from California, and it looks like, based on your bio, you are a Georgia lady all the way back to when you grew up in Habersham County.
That's right. I grew up my father raised chickens, and so I feel so privileged that I got to have that kind of lifestyle. I grew up on a chicken farm 12 miles outside of Clarksville in Habersham County. It's that area that's right next to the White County line and the Raven County line, about 3 miles from the old Sawtee store. And it's a source of pride to me that I think all of my relatives are buried within a 3 or 4 mile radius for generations, probably 6 or 7 generations. And I went to the university. I went to North Georgia for 2 years. Then I went to the University of Georgia, majored in journalism, went to law school at the University of Georgia, practiced law very briefly in Cornelia. I learned so much. It was the most fun in practicing law I ever had, but I felt like I wasn't specialized enough, and that bothered me. So now, whether we like it or not, I'm highly specialized in what I do.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Carolyn, about nuclear power, because there were delays, cost overruns, but now we're kind of reaping the benefits of Plant Vogtle. Just kind of give us your take on the future of nuclear power, not only in Georgia but in our country.
Well, nuclear power is the most cost efficient, the cheapest way that Georgia Power secures energy. Plant Vogtle was a painful thing. It wasn't Georgia Power's fault. Their equipment vendor, Westinghouse, went bankrupt, and then after, while they were in the midst of construction, Fukushima in Japan did a meltdown, and so the Nuclear Regulatory Commission imposed a bunch of new guidelines. And my understanding is that Georgia Power had to tear out a bunch of plant that was already in there and fix it to the new regulations. That wasn't Georgia Power's fault, but it also wasn't the ratepayers' fault. I think that it was a fairly speculative venture, and Georgia Power did take some of the loss. It was supposed to be, now the figures sort of conflict, but it was supposed to be a $16 billion project as I understand it. It ended up being either a $30 billion project or a $37 billion project. And I know that the ratepayers picked up $7 billion of that, and that translates to about $14.63 on your bill every month if you're a Georgia Power ratepayer. I think Georgia Power picked up about $3 billion. In my feeling, maybe the PSC should have gotten them to take more of that. It's not. Nuclear power is great, and we now have a system. Plant Vogtle was the first one to be built in 30 or 40 years, and it's working like a charm. But is it the future? I think a lot of the difficulties that cause the cost overruns, won't repeat themselves. I say that Georgia Power should basically make nuclear. They should set up a construction arm, and they used to have one, but I think they've disbanded it. Southern Company used to build power plants in China, and I don't think that they're doing that line of business now, but it seems like to me They know how to do it. Contract out with other utilities and build them throughout the country. They're safe and they're cheap, and we don't have solar panels that you don't know how to get rid of. And those Georgia is not a wind state, but those wind turbines, if you've ever been through a wind farm, it's pretty horrific. Damage to birds and the environment, and they're just ugly. And then, what do you do with something that big when its time is up?
We're talking to Carolyn Roddy, Republican running for District 5 Public Service Commission. So you're out there, you've been out there, I guess, for several months now on the campaign trail. What are you hearing out there from prospective voters?
Well, it's very interesting. This is the first time I've ever run for public office. I've been involved in Republican politics, but, and I've helped in campaigns, but I've never run as a candidate. It's, there's, because this is such a down ballot election, the focus is really on the governor, lieutenant governor, the Senate, and even all the congressional races. So there's not a lot of focus except data centers. There's a tremendous concern about data centers out there, that I'm hearing. And, I have to say my relationship to data centers is really just the power and who's paying for it. It's not that I can control the land use and the environmental issues. A lot of people, I'm afraid that a lot of people will just skip right through the PSC. They'll say, I don't know what it does, and I don't know who these people are, and it's just really sort of hard to get your message out. But it's been real interesting to see the election candidates around, and it's interesting because I just got a text from a lieutenant governor, a candidate for lieutenant governor, who is doing my message, which is, that the data centers should provide their own power, not charge it to the rate base. So I thought, oh, okay, good job here.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
That's what I'm hearing is not so much about affordability, although I think affordability is really the undercurrent in this whole race, and just being a watchdog of the people rather than a watchdog of utilities. You have to thread the needle, and you have to be both. And I think the PSC could have done a better job in working between those two concerns.
Well, Carolyn, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said this race is down ballot, Public Service Commission, and, except for data centers, there's not a lot of buzz because a lot of people don't even understand what someone on the PSC does, but you have done a really nice job of kind of explaining it and how critically important it is because electricity, impacts all of our lives on a daily basis. And looking at your website, I like your platform, and it's very simple and very impactful. Protect ratepayers, modernize the grid, and hold monopolies accountable. Carolyn Roddy for Georgia. Carolyn, if folks want to find out more information about you and your campaign, where can they go on social media? There are
Facebook posts for me, and there is also a LinkedIn site. But the best place is my website, and also I encourage anybody who wants to reach out to me. I do monitor my email, and I take telephone calls. And I was really flattered. Yesterday, a guy called me up and he said, I don't know who to vote for. Why should I vote for you? And I happened to be in the car, and we had a 5 or 10 minute conversation. And I said, thanks for caring. I really mean it. Care about your government and review this stuff. But if you need to get in touch with me directly, my contact information is also on my website.
Awesome. Well, I hope a lot of people are listening and are going to consider Carolyn Roddy when they go cast their votes for the next few days in advance voting. And on Tuesday, Election Day, Public Service Commission 5, District 5 candidate Carolyn Roddy. And Carolyn, good luck out there on the campaign trail, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, Jerry, thank you for making it possible, and thanks to all your viewers for listening.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. That has been Carolyn Roddy. And, man, people need to understand Public Service Commission is critically important. Yeah, it may be down ballot,
Wow,
but
did
wow.
you hear everything she listed?
Yeah.
Incredible.
She is really
Wow.
qualified.
Yes,
She
absolutely.
knows her stuff.
Yes.
This is not somebody just kind of wandering in off the street trying
absolutely.
to figure it out.
Yeah.
She would be a really good one to
Yeah,
consider.
absolutely. Great.
All right.
Great job.
Yeah. Well, this is Jeff Hood sitting in for Marc McMain on this lovely Wednesday afternoon in North Georgia. And you are listening to Real Country Q92.3. We're going to have a little fun here in just a minute because our next guest is we're going to do, I guess, a little word association. And you got questions, or I may have a question. He's got answers. So a little tease as we'll take a break and come back with our next guest. Jeff Hood sitting in for Marc McMain on Real Country Q92.3.
I'm Marc McMain, Republican for State Senate, and I approve this message.
Hi, this is former Congressman Jody Heiss. I know what it's like to stand up to the radical left, and I trust Marc McMain to do the same thing in the state Senate. I've watched Marc lead when he served as GOP chairman. He didn't just sit on the sidelines. He helped Republicans, including President Trump, win Georgia. So join me in keeping the main thing the McMain thing. Vote for Marc McMain on May 19th. Paid for by Marc for Georgia Incorporated.
Hey y'all, this is Bethany, owner of Willfully Guided Co. Boots and Western Apparel. From durable work boots built for long days to statement pieces ready for Saturday night and everything in between, we've got the brands that feel just right for everyone in the family. Stop by and see why we're your one-stop shop. Willfully Guided Co. Boots and Western Apparel is located at 116 South Broad Street, right in the heart of downtown Monroe. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to keep up with all the fun events happening with Willfully Guided Co. and for previews of all of our newest merchandise.
I'm Brett Malden, Republican for State House. My wife Candace and I are blessed to raise 3 kids right here in our community, and I believe my role as a father is to protect, and that includes protecting our conservative values. In the State House, that's exactly what I'll do. Whether it's crushing the woke agenda, cracking down on sanctuary cities, securing our elections, or defending our rights from government overreach, I'll stand up for your family and for mine. I'm Brett Malden, and I approve this message because our way of life is worth protecting. Paid for by Brett Malden for Georgia Inc.
I'm Ward Black, Republican for State House, and I approve this message.
I'm Congressman Andrew Clyde, and I'm proud to endorse Ward Black for State House. Ward is a proven conservative who will fight and win for our conservative values. Whether it's standing up to woke ideology, lowering taxes, or stopping big government overreach, Ward will get the job done. In the race for House District 120, Ward Black has my complete endorsement and my vote. Join me in voting for Ward Black in the Republican primary on May 19th. Paid for by Ward Black Inc.
Hey, this is attorney Bart Bitton with Bitton & Bitton. I live and work right here in Monroe, Georgia, and I am proud to serve this area. If you've been hurt in a car accident, you don't need some out-of-town lawyer that treats you like a number. You deserve a local lawyer you can trust, someone who lives here, works here, and takes care of people. So remember this, if you're ever in a car accident, be smart, call Bart. Bitton & Bitton, local lawyers you can trust.
Jeff Hood sitting in for Marc McMain on the Marc McMain Show on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. And thanks for joining us, and thanks to our first guest, Carolyn Roddy, running for Public Service Commission, District 5. And our next guest is on the line, and you just heard his voice just coming out of that break, and that is Bart Benton. Bart, nice to have you on the program today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Jeff.
All right. Well, for the next few weeks on Wednesdays, we're going to have a little fun. And, there's a lot of times when something happens in your life and then you're thinking, do I need an attorney? It's a little gray there. You don't know the law. So what we're going to do is we're going to have some like, what if this happens to you? And we're going to let you explain the pros and cons, and may get Chastity to jump in. But you and I kind of went over today, before the show, and 3 really good topics. So tell our listeners about defamation law in the state of Georgia.
Yes, sir. So I get calls about defamation probably more than you would think, but most of the time, the calls that I get aren't real cases of defamation. So for something to be defamation in Georgia, number one, it's got to be a false statement. Truth is an absolute defense in the state of Georgia and pretty much every other state. But not only does it have to be false, it's got to be defamatory, which is a fancy word of saying it's got to be something negative. You know, if I lie and say Jeff Hood's a billionaire, that's not defamation.
Not quite yet, but yeah. Gotcha, though.
And then obviously it's got to be communicated to a third party, and then last, it's got to cause you harm. Technically, emotional distress is considered harm, but, you know, in real defamation cases, it's, you know, it costs you a job, it costs you business at your current job, things like that.
Right. So I'm just curious, when you get calls or people stop by the office on, I believe you're in Monroe on West Spring Street, how often is this a topic? I mean, we're in the day of social media, and, you know, people like to kind of rip the other guy apart and all this, and people using their phones with videos and he said, she said, libel, slanders. How many cases like this come across your desk?
So I would say, you know, people call about it, but I always have to tell them, you know, what other than your feelings are hurt, what other harms did you actually suffer?
Yeah.
And most of the time, they haven't lost any money, they haven't lost any relationships, things like that.
Right.
So if you remember, Johnny Depp had a defamation lawsuit.
Yeah, I do.
Years ago.
Yeah.
And that his whole basis on that was Amber Heard lied about me being an abuser, and because of that, I lost all these movie deals that I otherwise would have gotten if she hadn't made these statements. That's a real defamation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've done a good job covering that one. So this second one, I think, is going to pique a lot of interest because it has to do with damage to your vehicle. Can your insurance company raise your rates after a wreck that wasn't your fault?
Yeah, so technically speaking, under Georgia law, if you're not at fault for a wreck, your insurance company cannot raise your rates. There's a specific Georgia statute, which is OCGA 33940, that lays this out. But insurance companies, they know how to get around just about anything. So they do things, you know, you may be in a wreck and it wasn't your fault, but your rates still go up, and they cite something like, well, the market's just gone up. Well, there's just been a lot more claims across the board this year. So a lot of times your rates still get raised after you've been in a wreck, and it's hard to prove that specifically it was because you were in a wreck.
Right.
And not for some other market reason.
Let me ask you this, Bart, because this has become an increasing problem in Georgia with car wrecks, and that is deer. My family, in the last 2 years, we have totaled 3 cars because deer have jumped out, literally. Wow. One ran in the side of our car. We have totaled 3 vehicles because of deer. The population is exploding, and that is a problem for the insurance companies.
Oh yeah, big time. And they could say, you could say, well, I was just driving, a deer ran out right out in front of me. That's not my fault. I didn't do anything to cause that. And then they turn around and say, well, there's a deer epidemic in Georgia. They're just reproducing more than they were, and they're in the roads more, and we have to account for that. So that's why we had to raise rates.
Yeah.
I do have a question, Bart. So it's kind of a little fun topic. So this is kind of a did you know legal topic. So since we're talking about car accidents, what not to say after a car accident?
Yeah.
Oh, good question.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, Chastity, the insurance company for the other driver will try to call you and do a recorded statement shortly after the accident. And what I tell my clients is do not ever talk to the other driver's insurance company. Because I'll give you an example of how that can backfire on you. It might be 1 hour after the wreck, and your adrenaline's still pumping and things haven't kicked in yet. You might say, yeah, my neck hurts a little bit, but, it's all right, I guess. And then the next day, your neck may be killing you. It may be a 10 out of 10 pain. Well, they're going to have that recording of you from the day of saying, my neck it hurts a little bit, but not terrible, and they're going to use that against you for the rest of the case.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
That is.
And then sorry, go ahead.
I would tell all listeners, don't talk to the insurance company until you have an attorney, and then your attorney can handle all that stuff for you.
Great advice. Thank you. And then one last little question. Did you know, kind of legal topic, this is related to me. I have a new teen driver at home. So teen driving legal tips for parents?
I would say get a car that is SUV or a truck. I think that just for safety purposes. And there's certain things you can do as well to lower your insurance rates. I think if you do a driving course, that helps lower your rates. But that's another thing the insurance company uses. Like, oh, you got a teen driver? Well, we're going to have to raise your rates. Yes. Even if your teen is the safest driver in the world, it's just their age alone is going to raise your rates.
Great. Thank you.
Well, we're talking to Bart Benton from Benton & Benton, attorney at law, West Spring Street in Monroe, and just kind of talking about some scenarios that could play out in your life, and do you need legal counsel? And this one, you obviously do, but number 3 on our list of items to talk about today is divorce. And in Georgia, Bart, there's some misconceptions about divorces, and kind of lay that out for us.
Yeah, so the biggest one that I come across is, someone's getting divorced, and let's say they have a house and they've got a stock portfolio, and people just assume that, the husband and the wife, they're just going to split it 50-50. That's not how it works in Georgia. Georgia is not a 50-50 state. There are some states that are, but Georgia is not. The way it works in Georgia is the assets are subject to what's called equitable division, which is a fancy way of saying it's up to fairness. What is the fair way to split up these assets? And that's either decided by a judge, or in Georgia, which a lot of states don't have this, you can have a jury trial and have 12 people on a jury decide what's fair in terms of how a couple's assets are split up.
What about, unfortunately, some divorces are triggered because there's adultery involved.
Right.
But what does that mean, the nuts and bolts from a legal standpoint, though, in Georgia?
Yeah, so adultery is defined as actual physical intercourse. And then just because, so some people think, adultery is committed, therefore the person who committed the adultery gets absolutely nothing. Adultery only bars with alimony, which is continued support after the divorce. Adultery does not automatically bar you from division of assets, so like getting the house or getting money in accounts, things like that.
Gotcha.
Okay. So it doesn't help you when you're going in front of a jury to be the one that had committed adultery, and the jury's trying to decide what's fair and what's not, but it's not an automatic bar in terms of your assets.
And I guess another misconception is that the mom or mother typically gets custody. That may not always be true, though, right? That's
true. It's the mother does not always get custody, and especially in 2026, the world we live in now. In the, 30 years ago, it was almost always the mother got custody, as long as there wasn't some kind of, addiction problem or something that was super extreme. But now, with the world we live in, and judges take into consideration both the father and the mother when trying to decide who gets custody, and the legal standard for that is what is in the best interest of the child.
Good point. Well, this has really been insightful, and I'm looking forward to this segment every Wednesday on different legal topics. And Chastity, what you got?
And I'm just to kind of end on another fun note. So kind of some fun divorce kind of little topics. Who gets the dog?
Yeah, so let's say you have a kid involved in the divorce. The judge would probably say, okay, well, the kid loves the dog. So let's just do it this way. Whoever has the child is going to have the dog at the same time.
Okay.
But if you just do it in terms of there's no kids involved and it's just a husband and a wife have a little dog and they can't agree on who gets the dog, then their lawyers would have to argue to the judge, why they deserve the dog and the other doesn't. But there's also, which is crazy, but it happens, there's situations where you have the dog one week and then your ex has the dog the other week.
Wow.
Wow.
Like a child.
Dog bounce around.
Is there like a pet support?
Yes. Interesting.
So, yeah, the judge could say, like, all right, well, here's how the payments have to work for supporting this dog. But it's not like child support in Georgia where there's, like, statutory guidelines.
Wow. Well, we'll just call that the fun segment, Marriage, Money, and Mayhem.
Yep.
There you go, man. Well, Bart, thank you so much. And if people need some legal advice and maybe need an attorney, tell them how they can reach out to you.
Yeah. So the best way to find me is my website, which is www.bentonandbentonlaw.com. I'm also on Instagram. You can always message me on Instagram. My Instagram tagline is "Be Smart, Call Bart."
Love it.
And I always got my phone on me. I'm always ready to talk if anyone needs legal advice.
All right. That has been Bart Benton, Benton and Benton Legal Services, our attorneys at law, West Spring Street in Monroe. And man, I'm looking forward to talking to you next Wednesday. So thank you so much.
Questions,
yeah,
get them ready.
Yes, sir. All right. We're at the bottom of the noon hour, 12:30, and thanks again to Bart Benton for being on that fun little segment. And we're going to step away, take a break, and we will keep rolling on with our next guest coming up right after this. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show, hosted today by Jeff Hood on WMOQ.
Hey, this is attorney Bart Benton with Benton and Benton. I live and work right here in Monroe, Georgia, and I am proud to serve this area. If you've been hurt in a car accident, you don't need some out-of-town lawyer that treats you like a number. You deserve a local lawyer you can trust, someone who lives here, works here, and takes care of people. So remember this, if you're ever in a car accident, be smart, call Bart. Benton and Benton, local lawyers you can trust.
I chuckled at a cartoon that showed a news conference by a United States Senator who announced that he was divorcing his family so he could spend more time with politics. We may laugh, but the truth is many people make that statement every day. Maybe not with words, but with their actions. In fact, if a politician retires from his work to spend more time with his family, it becomes the lead story, met with cynicism on the evening news, while the one who rejects his family advancing his career is commonplace. God tells us we should work hard to the glory of God. But he has clearly shown that we must have priorities. A relationship with God first, and family follows that. What does your focus tell you about your priorities? The Bible says that we have brought nothing into this world and we can take nothing out of it. It's good to focus on the things that last, like putting God first, and then family, and then people all around us that God loves. This is Bryant Wright, speaking right from my heart.
Visit rightfromtheheart.org and click television to watch our TV spots.
And that'll retire the side.
After 4 innings, it's still a tight one here at the ballpark. We'll step aside for a quick break.
I sure am looking forward to a quiet week. No games to call.
Yeah, I guess you are right. But I can't figure out who to support for lieutenant governor.
Ben, it's easy. Greg Dolezal.
Dolezal, huh?
Without a doubt. Dolezal is the proven conservative who gets the job done.
I mean, that's what we need. Someone who actually delivers.
I'm telling you, Greg Dolezal wrote the Riley Gaines Act to keep men out of women's sports, and he's always fighting to cut our property taxes.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Greg Dolezal will knock it out of the park for conservatives. When others ran from Trump, he dug in.
You convinced me. Greg Dolezal for lieutenant governor.
Paid for by Competitive Georgia Action Fund. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
WMOQ, the Marc McMain Show. Jeff Hood and Chastity Stewart sitting in for Mark, who is, where's Mark at today? He's out knocking on doors.
I think he's in Bogart today.
Bogart?
Yep.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Knocking doors.
That's pretty. He might end up at my house. I live close to Bogart, so.
Might be on our list.
Well, maybe. All right. So our next guest is a friend to the show. He owns, publishes 3 community newspapers in our listening area. And before we get him on the air, I'm going to throw a question to Chastity, because I live in Oconee County, and I love newspapers. I love the print and the online, but I still love the print. And I tell you, for anybody that says newspapers, the demise is upon us, not true.
Not at all.
Especially in your community. Because where else can you find out what's happening in the local towns, in your county, in your school system, your commissioners, your planning board, the zoning board? I mean, it goes on. And there's nowhere else to get that information. But over in Oconee County, now my wife and I have lived there for 32 years, and we have been a subscriber to the Oconee Enterprise from day one. Yes. How old do you think, without looking, is the Oconee Enterprise? How many years have they been in existence?
Easily, because you think about newspaper, I think, that's just the source of information for communities and has been since probably the beginning, really. So I would say easily for Oconee Herald, 200 years.
Yeah, not quite 200 years, but it's you're not far off. Okay. But the Oconee Enterprise has been around for 142 years that they have been serving the community. And so we talked to our next guest, Patrick Graham, about 5 weeks ago, because the big announcement that he had acquired this newspaper. And so now we're going to kind of get an update on how things are going. And Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Chastity. I'm very glad to be able to join you again.
Yeah, well, that was a long intro, and we are delighted to have you back. But I tell you, I have been thrilled to open my mailbox. Now, I will say we're in an election season, and I throw away those political flyers, and then I get to my Oconee Enterprise, and that's what I really want to see. And Patrick, I know, it's only been a few weeks, but gosh, you and your staff are just doing an incredible job with this publication.
Well, Jeff, again, I appreciate that so much. We have, I think I put in the either the very first story that we had in the first edition or my first column that edition that we were going to try and hit the ground running. And boy, it has certainly been that. We have hit the ground running, and I don't have any idea when it's going to slow down.
Wow.
We are, like you said, about 5 or 6 weeks into this now, and I guess the best description I can give you is something I've used when talking to some of my fellow newspaper friends, and that's. For a while there, we were drinking out of a fire hose, and now we've gotten it down to a garden hose. I'm not sure when we're going to get it down to just a glass of water, but we're trying to get there as quickly as we can.
Yeah, and you'll get there, but looks like you got a good staff in place. But let's talk about. I'm hearing neighbors that they've seen it, the new version of the Oconee Enterprise. They like what they're seeing, but let's talk about maybe some of the changes. I'm looking at last week's edition, and I'm seeing a lot of color, not only on the front page, but throughout last week's edition. But I'm also seeing, that hometown touch, and you're still doing last week at the top, above the fold, under the Oconee Enterprise, head or the name of the company. You've got the hometown newspaper of Bonnie Short. I think that's kind of been a tradition, and you've kept that going with the Oconee Enterprise.
Yeah, I love that. Those types of local and hometown touches are exactly what makes newspapers different from any other medium today. And it's just a way for us to continue to connect with our readers, continue to connect with the community. And I'm not sure if Michael Proska is who started that, or if
I think
Vinny or Mary D were doing that even before him. But I know it's been around a long time.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the different changes that we were going to make to the front and throughout the newspaper, boy, that was never even a question.
Sure.
Keeping that was definitely going to be part of what we were going to be doing moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I know it goes back at least 30 years since I've been a subscriber, and I think my name was on there once, so which was awesome. Now, here's what I really like. You are a bold man, and I would do the same thing because I know it might strike a nerve with some people, but not for me because I'm a Christian. And my wife and I and a bunch of people I've talked to, they are thrilled that you have a Bible verse on the front of the Oconee Enterprise.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Jeff. And I'll tell you, we have made a lot of changes, and we made them out of the gate. But I don't think in terms of reader interaction, I've had more discussion about anything else that we've done than the Bible verse on the front page. Good, mostly good, mostly complimentary. Of course, there are some people, as you said, there's some folks who would prefer that we didn't do that. But I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago, kind of explaining how that all came about. And why the word, God's word, is on the front page of all of the newspapers that I've ever owned and continue to own, and even the ones that I don't own anymore continue to do it.
Yeah.
So, which I think is fantastic. It's really been fantastic to have that kind of reaction overall. And our readers don't have to worry at all. It is never going to go anywhere. For me, it's non-negotiable. I had one person who had concerns, and they told me they may even have to reconsider their subscription if we continue to do that. And I told her that we are prepared to lose every subscriber we've got before we take that off the front page. And she decided she was going to be the first one, because she then proceeded to cancel her subscription. So, which is okay. Like I say all the time, we're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But one thing that you're never going to have to worry about with me is you're never going to have to wonder where I stand. I'm going to be real upfront about it, and then we can just all kind of decide what we want to do from there.
Yeah, and I applaud you for that. Now, Chastity had a question.
I absolutely applaud you for that, too. So thank you, Patrick. And
yes, ma'am.
Always leading with God is the greatest thing. So I'm going to kind of call this the going behind the headlines with Patrick Graham. So what don't people realize about running a paper?
Probably everything. I'll be honest with you. Despite our best efforts, there are going to be occasions when people, for any number of reasons, don't receive their paper, and when they call, they're always pretty upset, which I completely understand. And then as we talk about it, we try and diagnose what the issues might be, and we start going through all of it. And inevitably, they come away surprised at what all goes into getting just a little community newspaper in Oconee County, a weekly newspaper out. And I typically end those conversations with, now that you've got an idea of what all goes into getting the newspaper out, really it's a miracle that you ever get it, much less that we've actually missed you one time.
Right.
And they most of the time agree with me because there's just a whole lot more to it than folks probably realize.
I like that. And then one more kind of going behind the headlines here. Do you ever have breaking news moments that get chaotic?
All the time. That is the nature of breaking news. And even when there's not breaking news, even when it's not breaking news, even when it's a scheduled type of thing, it can get chaotic because of the way that it would be pushing up against the deadline. So, a good example of that would be, and I know this isn't something, given the deadline schedule that they've experienced in Oconee County yet, but our Friday night football coverage is like that 14 weeks of the year every fall.
Yeah.
Here in Monroe and in Covington, because the games are kicking off at 7:30 on Friday night. We're going out and covering all of the schools in our coverage area, whether they're playing at home or away. We're writing game stories. We're having photos from all the games. I mean, there's 6 high schools just in Walton County that we're getting covered on Friday nights. And then by the time the games end, it's going to be around 10 o'clock, 9:30 or 10. And we've got to come back to our office, put all of that information together for our readers so that we can have it in our weekend edition form. And we typically have to have our pages to press on Friday nights by 11 o'clock.
Wow,
so
a lot behind the scenes.
I thought we have late nights here on Friday night football.
Yeah.
You're not the only one.
No.
Yeah.
So at the same time that you're doing that, you're posting all of the results up on social media, on your website. We're working until about midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning. In the meantime, we've sent those pages off to press. The rest of the newspaper already went earlier in the day. They're turning it around so that they can get it on a truck it back to us. And we typically have that truck rolling in about 5 o'clock in the morning with the weekend paper and our big sports extra section. So I always tell people, the games kick off at 7:30 on Friday night, and by 7:30 on Saturday morning, you can be reading about it in your local newspaper. So, and that is absolute chaos for about 5 hours every Friday night.
Wow, but it's so rewarding for the readers.
Listen, it's real newspapering. Right?
Yeah,
that's the way everybody used to do it, and now we're one of the few people in the state who still do it that way. We're not just throwing the scores up online, and you can read about it on Wednesday or anything like that. We're doing next day coverage of high school football and trying to give college level coverage in terms of the quality for our local high school teams. So it's a lot of fun at the same time. So as most of the folks around here will probably tell you, football season is my favorite time of the year anyway.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Our guest is Patrick Graham. We're talking about the Oconee Enterprise. We're also going to come back, take a quick break, come back, and you kind of alluded to it, the Walton Tribune and your newspaper in Covington, just kind of the big picture. But we'll continue our conversation with Patrick Graham right after this on Q 92.3.
I'm conservative Doug McKillop. When Rhino Republicans face pressure from Democrats, they fold. Not me. I went to battle with Stacey Abrams and won, ending barbaric late-term abortions in Georgia. It made me the radical left's #1 target in the state, and it cost me my House seat. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Would I do it again? Absolutely. My name is Doug McKillop, and with your vote, I'm ready to take on and defeat the radical left Democrats.
Paid for by Doug for a conservative Georgia.
I'm Miranda, founder of the Humane Society of Walton County. We're a community-funded no-kill shelter for homeless dogs and cats. On May 30th, we're raffling off a brand new 2024 Jeep Wrangler or $40,000 in cash. Tickets start at $30 each, with only 5,000 being sold. To purchase your tickets, visit humanewalton.org. You don't want to miss this chance to win a brand new 2024 Jeep Wrangler or $40,000 in cash, all benefiting the Humane Society of Walton County.
It's family fun every Saturday night at the Winder Barrel Speedway in Winder. Gates open at 4 p.m. and the green flag drops at 7 p.m. Don't miss the excitement of the greatest show on dirt as drivers buckle up, get door to door and bumper to bumper that take that checkered flag. It's the Winder Barrel Speedway, 330 Donahue Road in Winder. Call 770-867-6327 or go to winderbarrelspeedway.com. It's the place to be on Saturday night.
We deserve a state representative with real financial experience, a champion with a real plan to fight for property tax relief. Wendell McNeil has an honest plan to reduce property taxes. He'll pass local legislation doubling the homestead exemption, delivering real savings to homeowners. And McNeil's plan even provides senior citizens additional relief. And widows who are facing the hardest times of all will see most property taxes eliminated. Wendell McNeil, a champion for us.
Welcome back to the Marc McMain Show, hosted by Jeff Hood and Chastity Stewart. Wednesday afternoon, our guest for the last few minutes of today's show is Patrick Graham, proprietor, publisher, probably bottle washer at the Oconee Enterprise, has the same title at the Walton Tribune and the Covington News, 3 outstanding newspapers just all right there together. And Patrick, how do you leverage having 3 community newspapers in close proximity to give the maximum amount of information to your readers each week?
That's a great question. So having these newspapers, in this kind of a cluster like this, does enable us to do some things that we wouldn't be able to do if they were a little bit more spread out. So, and we've got that same situation now with the 3 newspapers that I own in Alabama. Those are also clustered together in adjoining counties. But because of proximity, it's much more difficult to have the Georgia papers and the Alabama papers sharing resources with each other. Whereas here in Georgia, the 3 local newspapers are able to do that readily, and then the same in Alabama, which is really beneficial, because if you've got something that is needing additional attention, additional resources, it's like when I bought the Oconee Enterprise, and we talked about bringing all of not just my resources to bear, but we were going to bring resources that were pledged by other members of the Georgia Press Association to bear in order to make sure that we kept this 142-year-old institution of Oconee County not just surviving but thriving.
Yeah.
So that is the goal as we work in all of these communities, is to make sure that there's a community newspaper serving them, and one that is doing the kind of job that not just that they might want, but that they deserve.
Well, we talked at the beginning of the interview about that local touch. You recognize a reader each week on the front. You have the Bible verse, and of course it's you've got the editorial page, letters to the editor, but also noticed that you've brought back what some people say is a lost art, the crossword puzzle, and then you've got in Oconee County the pets of the week. So where else can you get this? But man, I love the crossword puzzle, bringing that back.
Right. And I'll tell you, when the announcement was first made, I that's probably the thing that I got the most questions about. Is are you going to bring back the crossword puzzle? And we worked on that as quickly as we could in order to achieve that. And I think we finally got that going and going pretty well.
Yeah.
A couple of other things that people are at least initially indicated that they were looking for. Probably the other one that I've gotten the most comments about would be real estate transactions. The newspaper used to publish the different real estate transactions in the paper, and that is something that we will need to work with the county appraiser's office on. But I think we're going to be able to accomplish that. And then also, there are a lot of folks who have indicated they would have an interest in us bringing back the health department scores for like restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
That's something that we are running in the Walton Tribune here in Monroe on a monthly basis. We also are running. We aren't running real estate transactions. We've still got to get that figured out here, but we are running the building permits. So I know that is something that we could, if we can't figure out the real estate transactions, we could also possibly implement in Oconee County. So, there's different ways to skin this cat. We just got to figure out which way is going to work there in Watkinsville.
Well, we're talking to Patrick Graham and his fairly new acquisitions, the Oconee Enterprise weekly newspaper in Watkinsville. And Patrick, you can only be in one place at one time, or at least I think that's the case. That's my understanding for most people, although you may defy logic. But you've got to have good people in place, and you worked quickly to put some good ones on your staff at the Oconee Enterprise. The young lady that's your managing editor, you've got a sports editor. Just briefly tell us about the folks that are kind of running the show over there in Watkinsville.
Right. So you're absolutely right. Having them close together, having the newspapers close together enables me to move back and forth between them a little bit more than I'd be able to if they were spread out. But I can't be everywhere at once. If I had about 5 more of me, that would be incredibly helpful. But in lieu of that, I've got really good people in all of these different locations. Kate Verity is the managing editor there in Oconee County, and is just doing a fantastic job. Someone that we were able to move over from her position as the news editor at the Covington News, and then elevate her to managing editor, and is doing just a great job running, really not just the newsroom, but also helping me in all areas of the newspaper operation. Not quite to the extent, I would say, of a publisher, but given as much help as you can short of that. Same with Evan Newton in Covington, and then also Stephen Milligan here in Monroe. Cheyenne Tolleson is the sports editor there in Oconee County, and just like everyone else, just hit the ground running. It's been fantastic the way that she's, and it's a little bit tougher to do when it's coming in. She came in on spring break. We are at the end of the school year, so she's got to try to very quickly begin a rapport with the coaches and kind of have that continue through the summer. But she is someone who previously worked here in Monroe as an intern, and has now been working in the industry at another newspaper for a good friend of mine, Scott Buffington, for the last several years. And now she's come back to the area, and we've been able to hire her and put her to work in Watkinsville. So good folks doing a great job, and I couldn't be happier about being able to give them these opportunities at the Oconee Enterprise.
Well, Patrick, time has flown, and as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the airwaves to get an update on what's going on with your trifecta of newspapers in our area. And you mentioned you've got some in Alabama, but specifically, folks, if you have not checked out these newspapers, you need to. The Oconee Enterprise, if you're over in Watkinsville or Bogart. Of course, the Walton Tribune, a legendary newspaper published in Monroe, and then the Covington News. And Patrick's kind of the guy behind the scenes getting it done. And Patrick, again, thanks for kind of bringing us up to date with what's going on all three publications. And as always, my friend, it's good to have you on the air with us.
Yes.
Hey, I sure do appreciate it, Jeff. Sure do appreciate Chastity. Just before I go, one quick thing. We've also added Molly Avery to our staff in Watkinsville.
Okay.
She's handling customer service, and she will be able to help all of our readers and advertisers with anything they might need.
So call Molly and tell her you want to start your subscription to the Oconee Enterprise.
Great
so
job.
Do it early, do it often.
There you go. That has been Patrick Graham, and thanks again for him taking a few minutes to join us. So it's been a great show. We talked to Carolyn Roddy, who's running for Public Service Commission, and we talked to Bart Benton about what ifs if you've got some potential legal issues.
Great show, Jeff.
Yeah, it's been a good one.
So
Boy,
fun. It
time
goes so fast.
flew. Yeah, about as fast as that bird out there flapping his wings, looking for some bird food that Tall Paul didn't put out, or Les Lane or somebody. But anyway, it's been a great Wednesday edition of the Marc McMain Show with Jeff Hood and Chastity Stewart. So, let's see. I want to say something I haven't said before, but I used to listen to the Ludlow Port Show, and I don't want to screw this up. It's not written down. But when Ludlow always signed off, he would say, whatever else you do today, you find somebody to be nice to.
I love that.
Words of wisdom.
I love that.
Good
Thank
afternoon.
you.